Thank you so much for watching us. We're in Bundaberg tomorrow night. Cannot wait. Now, normally we'd say send us emails, but we have a full house tomorrow night. So the best place to be is right there. We'll obviously tell you about the day in the news, and then we'll celebrate one of the great cities of Australia, Bundaberg, tomorrow night here on Paul Murray Live. Now, let's get straight into it with two people who I'm sure have sampled plenty of the fine Bundy rum over the years. None other than the wonderful Erin Molan, our colleague here at Sky News, and
Good
of course,
evening.
none other than Albo's chief spokesperson, Joe Hildebrand.
Yes, he told me to say hi.
Oh, yeah, please. Big kisses back. All right, now, let's talk about Albo on the world stage because, Aussie Joe got to meet real Biden. But amazingly, apparently the way that he's going to solve the issue when it comes to China is just to tell them, please take off the trade embargo, but please take away the trade restrictions. Erin, how did I not think of that? Just ask the Chinese to be nice and they'll be nice.
I know. If only Scott Morrison had taken that approach, hey, things might have turned out very differently. Look, it was interesting to see him on the world stage. He looked very excited, Anthony Albanese. He looked a little bit nervous. He looked very chuffed is probably the word that I would use, and understandably so. Look, to be honest, and I don't want to, fight you for the job of chief spokesperson, Joe, but I think he's done pretty well. He hasn't monumentally screwed anything up yet, and I think that's always a tick. When it comes to China, I think it was important that he came out and wasn't soft on the issue. We know that China, they're bullies, so they don't like people standing up to them, which is one of the main reasons they didn't have anything to do with the coalition. They seem to be courting Anthony Albanese. It feels almost like a dating show. They just keep throwing little things out there, hoping that he'll bite. I think we've just got to watch what he does now. I think it's too early to tell whether or not he'll do the right thing when it comes to not China, but the Chinese Communist government. We'll wait and see.
Yeah, look, Richard Marles, who knows, obviously he's still getting his homework marked by the Chinese. But important to see here, Joe, look, it is impossible for an Australian leader to screw these things up. But I tell you what, that moment when Joe Biden turns around and says, look, I know you've had a tough time if you want to have a sleep, is that just because he falls asleep at international meetings? He thinks everyone should have a nap?
I actually thought that's what it was. That's how I took it. I took it as this amazing moment of self-reflection where Joe Biden suddenly realised what the rest of the world was seeing. Look, I will simply agree with Erin. I don't think Albanese put a foot wrong. Even some of his stauncher critics, I noticed my doppelganger in the Australian, Greg Sheridan, doppelganger plus a decade or two, said that he did incredibly well, did perfectly well, couldn't fault the performance. Neither could I. I think in terms of telling China to lift the trade bans, well, even if he doesn't think that they'll do it, obviously, I mean, what else do you want him to do? Do you want him to roll over and say don't? Do you want him to say nothing? He was asked about whether the Chinese, or asked about the Chinese government's letter of congratulations, welcoming him to the role of Prime Minister. That was obviously a little carrot to see if he'd get a bit cosy with them. He didn't. He just said, no, I'll welcome all people and we'll talk, welcome all, congratulations for all over the world, and we'll talk to them just like we talk to everyone else and deal with it in due course. He hasn't been a puppy and just had his belly tickled. He's been strong. And the real sort of elephant in the room when it comes to why hasn't why didn't Scott Morrison, for example, think of telling the Chinese to lift the trade? Well, they just weren't talking. There was no dialogue whatsoever, so you can't actually raise these things. There is at least the possibility of a dialogue with a new government, and I don't say that to blame Scott Morrison for being too tough on China. We had to be tough. But the fact of the matter is that unlike in China, in Australia, the prospect of a democratic change of government allows a kind of reset that might enable us to push back a bit and get some stuff back without the Chinese losing face or without us making any concessions.